day. Welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Fidelia Aguncha. The Nigerian army says it has killed 2 Boko Haram commanders and deputies to Abubakar Shekau, factional leader of the terror group. Army spokesperson Sani Usman in a statement said the terrorists identified as Abdul Kawuri and Abubakar Banishke were killed at Alafa in Borno State on Friday. The military also stated that 5 other key leaders of the group and close associates of Shekau were killed in a joint attack in August. Meanwhile, the Nigerian army has dismissed a video released by the terrorist sect. The video was mocking the army over its 40-day ultimatum which expired without the capture of Abubakar Shekau. The army, however, condemned the video, saying it is a sign that the sect is now desperate after being defeated by the military. The new Commissioner of Police in Lagos State, Imohimi Edgo, has been laying out his plans to ensure adequate security in the Nigerian commercial capital. Speaking at his first media briefing, Imohimi pledged to reduce the crime rate in Lagos State by 30% in his first 2 months. He also spoke on various issues ranging from synergizing with other security agencies to community policing and illegal possession of firearms. Less than a week after resuming office as the Commissioner of Police in Lagos State, Imohimi Edgo has been unfolding his agenda for making the city more secure.
Intelligence laboratory.
He called this press conference to reel out what he plans to achieve during his time as Commissioner in the southwestern state.
I intend to restore Lagos State as the safest and most peaceful state to live in and to do business in Africa. It is achievable. My roadmap, which I tag Roadmap for Restoration, is based on a police plan that is driven largely by the philosophy of community policing and community safety partnership.
Lagos has been rocked by a series of kidnapping, while court gangs had made life unbearable for those living in the outskirts of the city. The new commissioner says he is determined to stop all of that with a new strategy approach.
My police plan has a strategy, an all-inclusive, practical strategy to reduce crime and cases of human rights abuses in Lagos State Command. First of all, I have with immediate effect established police observation / pin down points in all police divisions across the state.
Edgo also spoke on the issue of cooperation with security agencies, pledging to promote the image of the force in the public.
Community safety partnership, on the other hand, is an aspect of community policing that emphasizes partnership and collaboration with other agencies of government, civil society, agencies responsible for providing utilities for citizens. That partnership is geared towards making life more meaningful, more bearable, and making communities more peaceful. I'll be partnering very closely with other security agencies.
On the issue of illegal possession of firearms, here is what the new police chief had to say.
We will work very closely with all vigilante groups. None of them must carry arms. They are not empowered by law to do so. And we will not encourage or tolerate illegality. We will use them primarily for intelligence networking.
Mr. Edgo is not new to the Lagos State Police Command. He is the immediate past Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of operations in the state. Residents would be hoping he matches his words with action. For a city of around 23 million people and where policing is far from adequate, there is no questions at all that this new police commissioner has his work cut out. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has denied reports that it is investigating the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Walter Onogan. A Nigerian newspaper had published a report saying the anti-graft agency was investigating a number of high-profile Nigerians for corruption. Some of those mentioned include Onogan, former Finance Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Minister of Solid Minerals Development Kayode Fayemi, and Justice Abdul Kafarati of the Federal High Court. The EFCC has now come out to deny the authenticity of the list, insisting it is not aware of its source. Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka has asked the Nigerian government to honor the agreement it reached with ASU and resident doctors in order to end the nationwide strike action embarked upon by both bodies. He was speaking at a joint press briefing with President of Human Rights Group Women Arise, Joe Udumakin. Both of them also addressed other issues of concern in the country, from separatist agitations to restructuring and corruption.
There are people who are talking about secession. Nobody's denying that. But we should stop pretending that restructuring or decentralization or reconfiguring the constitutive units of this nation, that these equate breaking up, fragmentation. It's false, it's dishonest, and that should stop. But what I understand people to mean when they use that word, restructure, is that this nation started out as a federating entity. It is no longer a federating entity. It's an overly centralized society, and people are saying, basically, let's go back to a genuine, authentic federal system, or else let's come up with a better idea. That's what people are saying. But this one, obviously, is not working. Universities are closing down, resident doctors have gone on strike, etc. And all the complaint is non-implementation of agreement. If you have an agreement, it's simply a matter of honor to implement it. If for any reason you cannot implement it, you should be the one to initiate a meeting and explain to the partners in an agreement. Say, sorry, I cannot fulfill my side of the bargain. These are the reasons. Don't wait. Don't wait until they get fed up with waiting for implementation to be evident in their pay packages, in their emoluments, in their facilities.
We have handled several cases of job justice. Job justice is on the rise, is on the increase. We see that a lot of people, flimsy excuse that somebody has gone to steal something from the market, from homes, put time and set some people at place. So we have had a series of campaigns which we saw the assistance to the Special General Police, the Commissioner of Police, and we also carried an awareness program that those who perpetrate heinous acts are also culpable. And if anything happens, well, some of them say, well, they've lost hope in the judicial system, and that is why some of them take laws into their hands. Under the Nigerian Society Against Corruption is the movement against corruption. And that movement against corruption, we've always told our people that they should own the war against corruption. And that's through that we carry that massive awareness so that corruption really, abuse of power is also corruption. And we see that corruption has bled into white. Nigeria is bleeding under the weight of corruption. And there is a need for us to be vigilant in the marketplace, schools, anywhere that we find people perpetrating heinous acts. We should always speak out.
After 1 year in the red zone, Nigeria's economy has finally found its way out of recession. Data from the country's gross domestic product released on Tuesday shows the economy is finally growing. Africa's largest economy shrank by 1.5% in 2016. It was its worst drop in over 2 decades.
It's the news many Nigerians have been waiting to hear. The country is finally out of recession. In its latest data, the National Bureau of Statistics says the country's economy grew in the second quarter of 2017, expanding to 0.55% year-on-year. This technically brings an end to a nightmare that has plagued the country's economy for 5 quarters.
Basically, being out of recession is largely a technical thing, because it's just a question of the GDP growth moving from a negative territory to a positive territory. For operators in business, we look beyond the numbers. We look at the practical realities, on ground. We look at the quality of the investment environment, because this is what affects the productivity of businesses. So therefore, we'll be looking at things like our infrastructure, particularly power. We'll be looking at what is happening to our roads, what is happening to our railway system, what is happening to other major variables. And we also look at what is happening to policies, because it is policies that will determine to a large extent how investments will also perform.
Nigeria's economic recovery has been attributed to growth in oil production, agriculture, manufacturing and trade. The government had to strive to diversify the economy away from crude oil in the wake of the economic downturn.
It was helped by the realization by governments that they needed to change some policies, particularly the foreign exchange regime. When we had a lot of oil money and oil prices were high, we could afford the luxury of a fixed exchange rate, which was not advisable for any economy, strong or weak. But when the weakness of the economy was revealed by the fall in oil prices, after some reluctance, the central bank reacted positively by enabling the foreign exchange regime to float and have various options, windows in the economy.
But despite this news, Nigerians are yet to feel the impact, as the cost of living is still on the rise. It appears the economic bounce back is only on paper.
The recession is not over for a large section of Nigerians, especially those below the middle income level. Their life incomes, their lifestyles have not changed. So they are effectively very much still in recession. What has only happened is that the economy as a whole has come out of recession. In other words, the economy is now growing. But for the low-income person whose salaries have not gone up, or the unemployed who has not got a job, is still very deep in recession until he or she gets a job and the low-income worker gets a significant increase in their wages. Then they begin to see the signs. But the level at which the signs of coming out of recession is mostly at the business level.
We need to see how we connect these GDP numbers to the welfare of the people. And you need the right kind of policies to make that happen. The average citizen is worried, especially now, about high cost of goods and services. They are worried about high cost of food, high cost of transportation, high cost of welfare. They are worrying about issues of jobs and employment. So we need to also put in place specific policies to address these critical concerns about the welfare of the people.
Even though there are projections Nigeria's economy will grow further in 2017, experts say the country may not be fully out of the woods. It wants the government to continue with more policies to prevent a recurrence.
So we need to restructure our tax policy to ensure that we use our tax policies to encourage investment across all levels. The big investors, the small investors, particularly sectors that we need to encourage to be able to diversify the economy. And our procurement policy, I've mentioned that our fiscal policy, our trade policy is also important. Trade policy is about imports and exports.
One significant policy was freeing the exchange rates, allowing the exchange rate to find its level, particularly at the investment and exports window, which is close, very close to open market. So if the government did not do that, it would have been very difficult to come out of recession. So government needs to pursue that to its logical conclusion, remove the several prices of foreign exchange, because a dollar is a dollar.
Nigeria no doubt faces a daunting task ensuring the economy remains above waters. It is pinning its hopes on the growth of other sectors like agriculture and the rise in oil sector, which led to the recession in 2016. At the moment, agriculture, which contributes around 23% of GDP, has rebounded with growth of 3%, while oil prices recovered slightly with growth of 1.6% year-on-year. But despite these positive indicators, Nigeria's recovery remains fragile.
The Nigerian government on Wednesday met with the National Association of Resident Doctors in a bid to end the nationwide strike action by health practitioners. Representatives of both parties met at the conference room of the Ministry of Labour and Employment. Meanwhile, the Anambra and Ekiti state chapters of NARD have reportedly backed out of the ongoing strike. This comes after the Health Minister Isaac Adewale directed heads of federal government hospitals to employ the services of doctors who are currently undergoing the mandatory National Youth Service Corps program to fill the vacuum. The industrial strike action commenced on Monday, September 4th, 2017. The Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU is set to hold a crucial meeting with the Nigerian government on Thursday. The planned meeting comes a week after the lecturers refused to show up for an intended meeting with the government. Expected at Thursday's meetings are the Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige, and the Minister of Education, Adamu. The lecturers embarked on an indefinite strike action over 3 weeks ago to protest non-implementation of the 2009 agreement between the union and the federal government. This action has crippled academic activities in both federal and state universities across the country. There appears to be more trouble for Nigeria's education sector as major non-teaching staff unions of public universities in the country today resolved to embark on an indefinite strike action from September 11, 2017. The unions include the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities, and the National Association of Academic Technologists. They say the strike action is to protest non-implementation of the 2009 Federal Government Non-Teaching Staff Unions Agreement. Chairman of the Joint Action Committee of the union, Samson Ugokwe, noted that the nationwide industrial action would be total and non-comprehensive. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo on Wednesday visited flood victims in Benue State on behalf of President Muhammadu Buhari. Osinbajo during the visit met with the state governor Samuel Ortom as well as senior government officials in the state. A torrential rainfall hit Benue State on August 27 and 28, causing heavy flooding which displaced over 110,000 people, including the loss of properties worth millions of naira. The state government and its agencies has set up a camp for the displaced persons where they have access to medical care. President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday returned to the presidential villa in Abuja after almost a week in his hometown Daura in Katsina State, where he spent the Salah holiday. The president, while in Daura, met with his Niger counterpart Mahamadou Issoufou. He reiterated the need to sustain the country's unity while playing host to several groups, including core members serving in Katsina. The Nigerian government has summoned South African Acting High Commissioner to Nigeria, Kenneth Pedro, over the extrajudicial killing of a Nigerian in his country. The deceased, identified as Clement Oforma, was allegedly killed by South African policemen who accused him of being a drug dealer. The Nigerian government is also demanding that the police officers responsible for the despicable act be brought to book.
Corruption not in my country. What is wrong with you, man? Saying no. Said I drew for more than 1 hour.
Ìyá mi, ọ̀rọ̀ yín náà ni mò ń ṣe. Ọ̀rọ̀ yín náà ni mò ń ṣe. Ká kúrò fún Ọlọ́run. Ká satisfy yín níbi ọ̀rọ̀ yín náà ni mò ń ṣe.
Ẹ wo jẹ́ ká lọ jàre.
Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ má bínú. Hello. Hello ọ̀gá. màá dọ́dọ̀ yín lẹ́sẹ̀yìn I am assure you 5 minutes màá dọ́dọ̀ yín ẹ gbà bẹ́ẹ̀.
You are deceiving another customer just like you deceived us.
The same way he deceived us.
Eh? Why?
Ètò ní iṣẹ́ yìí bó o bá kúrò ò lè jẹun ò lè jẹun bó o bá kúrò ò lè jẹun ìyá mi bó o bá kúrò ò lè jẹun. Workshop mi lélẹ́yìí ibi tí èèyàn bá ti ń ṣe ló ti ń jẹ ìyẹn ló ń pè ní workshop ibi tó bá ti ń work ní kó má ti shop.
Ego, you cannot base your business on lies. Koda now, it is corruption and it cannot work. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
You're watching news now on TV360. Following continued dollar intervention by the Central Bank of Nigeria on the interbank market, the naira has appreciated against the US dollar. The local currency gained one naira trading at 364 to a dollar. Meanwhile, at the investors' window, the naira was sold at 360.39 to a dollar, while it exchanged at 305.8 to the greenback at the interbank market. The fall comes amid report from the National Bureau of Statistics showing that the country's economy has moved out of recession. Oil prices rose on Wednesday as strong global refining margins and the reopening of U.S. Gulf Coast refineries provided a more bullish outlook after sharp drops due to Storm Harvey. Brent crude gained 28 cents to trade at $53.66 a barrel, while U.S. crude rose by 15 cents to $48.81 a barrel. Many refineries, pipelines, and ports that were knocked out by Harvey 10 days ago resumed production with hopes of recovering losses. A Kenyan teenager has been arrested and is currently being investigated for arson and murder following a fire in a school dormitory that killed 9 students. A Kenyan court on Wednesday asked that the teenager be remanded in police custody for the next 7 days while investigations continue on the sad incident. 9 students lost their lives while 10 others sustained severe burns after fire razed the dormitory at Margaret School in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. The U.S. military and government forces in Somalia have killed 3 members of Islamic militant group Al-Shabaab in an airstrike. The Tuesday strike, which took place in Bay region, also involved help from peacekeepers from the African Union mission in Somalia. Al-Shabaab, which is linked to Al-Qaeda, has lost control of most of Somalia's cities and towns since it was pushed out of Mogadishu in 2011. Moving on to sport now, Coach Salisu Yusuf has announced his team for the West African Football Union Championship in Ghana. FC Ifeanyi Ubah's Ikechukwu Ezenwa, who was impressive in the Super Eagles double-header World Cup qualifiers against Cameroon, tops the 18-man team. Rabiu Ali, Kingsley Eduwo, Ifeanyi, Samuel Matthias, and Afiz Aremu also made the cut for the championship bid to hold between September 9th to 24th, 2017. Andy Murray says he will most likely miss the rest of the season because of his ongoing hip injury. The British world number 2 in the game of tennis pulled out of the US Open 2 days before the tournament began and has not played since Wimbledon in July. The 3-time Grand Slam champion has also withdrawn from October's Association of Tennis Professionals Tour event in Beijing and Shanghai and will likely miss the event in Vienna and Paris later that month. UEFA chief Alexander Catherine says he supports Premier League plans to close the transfer window before action gets underway on the pitch next season. Club bosses will vote tomorrow on closing the transfer window before the start of the domestic season, a move that will leave it out of line with the standard FIFA date. This year, the window closed on August 31st after 3 rounds of Premier League fixtures. Well, that's all on news now. Thanks for watching. I am Fidelia Aguncha.